Hello again. We have arrived at another book of the Odyssey. This time we are in book 10, which is called The Grace of the Witch. Ooh. Okay, so let's recap book 9. All right, book 9 was pretty intense. We had the Cyclops Polyphemus, and what happened was the men came into Polyphemus's cave and they were like, we could steal some sheep and some cheese. He won't mind. Remember, the Greeks are all about hospitality, so they're coming in expecting that hospitality. But what happened? Polyphemus was like, don't steal my stuff. I'm going to eat ya. And he does. And a lot of crewmates don't survive, do they? Yikes. And so Odysseus, being the intelligent, clever man that he is, he does not tell Polyphemus his name. No, he does not. But he provides Polyphemus with some very nice wine, and it puts Polyphemus to sleep. And during that time, the men whittle a large pokey stick. And that's because they had been trapped in the cave. There's no way that they could have gotten out of that cave without Polyphemus rolling that stone away. And so, if they would have killed him before, oh, guess what? They would have never gotten out of that cave. Not a cool thing. So Odysseus is like, okay, we can't kill the guy, but let's injure him so that he will roll the stone away seeking help. Very smart, very clever. Remember to keep track of those epic hero traits that we're seeing from Odysseus, all right? And so we poke his eye. Oh no. And all of a sudden Polyphemus is like, oh, and he tries to call out for his fellow Cyclopses. Now remember, they live in their own little caves. They're pretty isolated. And so they're all shouting, hey, Polyphemus, what's wrong? And he's like, nobody has hurt me. And they're like, okay, we're gonna go then. You seem sick. You be you. And that's because Odysseus had given his name as Nobody. Genius idea, right? And so Polyphemus is like, I'm just gonna sit by the entrance to my cave so that nobody can escape. And of course, what do the Cyclopses do? They tend sheep. So we've got a lot of sheep in here. And so the men are like, okay, we're gonna cling to the bottom of these sheep, which you gotta have a lot of core strength for that. I'm picturing myself clinging to the bottom of sheep, and it's not a pretty sight. So they cling to the bottom of the sheep, and as the sheep run out to go graze, they get out of the cave. Except for the biggest ram, right? And so we have Odysseus underneath this ram, and Polyphemus, he's stroking this ram. He's blinded at this point. He's stroking the ram, and he's like, oh, ram, only you understand me, ram. He's like, if you could tell me where Odysseus is, oh, it'd be great, ram. And secretly, Odysseus is underneath that ram. And here's the thing. Well, nobody is underneath the ram. You get it. And that's dramatic irony. Dramatic irony occurs whenever we, the audience, know something that the characters in the story do not. Polyphemus did not know that Odysseus, nobody, was right there. But we, the audience, knew that. And so that is dramatic irony. I love it. It's one of my favorite devices that authors use for effect. All right. It's like we're in on the joke. Haha. Okay, so after that, what happens? Odysseus and his men, they are like, okay, we're going. And Polyphemus is like, I'm gonna get you guys. And he starts throwing boulders. At one point it describes he breaks off the top of a hill. This is how big these guys are, right? He breaks off the top of a hill, he hurls it at the boat, and Odysseus is like, you missed. And all of a sudden, Odysseus thinks that he's scot-free, and he does the stupidest thing that you could do in this situation. He yells back, hey, by the way, my name's Odysseus, bye! And, of course, Polyphemus is kind of famous because he has a famous dad. And who's his dad? Poseidon, the god of the sea. And when you live in Greece, you know who you should not anger? The sea god. Yeah, you shouldn't do that. And so Poseidon hears his son calling out in a prayer, you must avenge me, father, right? And yep, he's going to get that revenge. He's going to get it all right. Odysseus is in a world of hurt right now. So after they leave the Cyclops massacre, if you will, they go to the land of King Aeolus. And Aeolus is the god of the winds, if you will, the master of the winds. And he is super hospitable. He hears the woes that have befallen Odysseus and his crew. He's like, oh, I feel so bad for y'all. Here's what I'm going to do. And he tells Odysseus that he's going to bag all the bad winds. Yeah, all the bad stormy winds. He's going to put them in a bag because you can do that. And he puts this bag, he ties it off. He's like, all right, don't open this bag. I'm going to leave the western winds, the nice, breezy, nice, easy, calm winds for you so that you can get home as soon as possible. And Odysseus is like, oh, thank you so much. So he takes the bag and he's like, I'm going to stay up so that nothing happens. And we get home to Ithaca. So he stays up for 9 whole days and 9 whole nights. And you know how that goes. So he's like, oh. Finally, Ithaca is in sight. There's home right there. And of course, Odysseus falls asleep because he's like, oh, I've made it. Yay. I can finally rest. Yay. And what did the men do on Odysseus's ship? They're like, hey, I bet King Aeolus put treasure in that bag. I bet there's gold and silver in that bag. I bet Odysseus is trying to keep that from us. We have been through a lot. We deserve that gold and silver. You know, things would have been much better if Odysseus would have just told them what was in the bag. But hey, anyway, so of course what happens? They untie the bag. They grab the bag from Odysseus's sleeping grip, if you will. And of course, all the bad winds flow out and they get blown back to King Aeolus's island. And King Aeolus is not having it. He's like, okay, wait, no, I'm not giving you another bag because this whole crew is cursed. If the gods have deemed that you're not fit to go home, then I'm not helping you and incurring all that wrath of the gods on me. Oh, no. Bye-bye. And so he lets them go off on their own. And that's what happens on King Aeolus' island. Now, they go up to this island, right? And there's some rocky mountain hills, right? And they see this very large princess. And they think, oh, she's going to be hospitable. But then, oh, all of the Laestrygones, they come and they start throwing boulders at Odysseus's ship. At this point, he has a fleet. He doesn't just have one ship. He has a fleet of ships, right? And unfortunately, all of his ships, except for one, the one that Odysseus was on, get completely massacred. And there's only, at this point, 45 men left in Odysseus's crew. Oh, sad day. Okay, so they sail from there and they land on an island where a witch inhabits. She's a goddess. Her name is Circe, okay? And actually, there is a book with just her perspective. It's by Madeline Miller and it is phenomenal. It's called, you guessed it, Circe. Okay, and so Circe is a witch and she is going to be very hospitable indeed. And I'm not going to give away some details because I want you to read it, but ooh, it's interesting. It's interesting. You like pigs? Anybody? Well, you're going to like them in this one. All right. Good luck. Have fun reading this one.